For many scholars and for lots of students, introductions are the most difficult part of a research report to write. But there's a certain pattern that almost all scholarly introductions have. In this workshop, you will learn what that pattern is and how to use it to write good introductions. Here in part 1 of this workshop, I will provide an introduction to writing introductions. The primary focus here is on introductions for theses and dissertations. And for the sake of simplicity, I'll just use the term thesis for both. There are two kinds of theses, but they have the same basic pattern in each for introductions. First is the traditional one, and that consists of one long document reporting a single unified research project. The introduction is usually the first chapter and relatively long. In empirical research, the chapters that follow the introductions are often the literature review, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. The second kind of thesis consists of a set of separable, publishable articles. Each is a chapter, and of course they have shorter introductions because they're typically just article length. Sometimes they will have a general introductory chapter and a concluding chapter. The focus here is on the thesis, of course, but you will use the same basic pattern in other types of science communication. Posters, of course, are similar to articles. They often have a separate introductory section. But there's also the grant proposal, the proposal abstract, and the prospectus. All have the same essential pattern that you're going to learn. And the reason they have the same pattern is they must be effective in making the same two arguments. The first argument that an introduction makes is to convince the audience that the research is original. The second is to convince the audience that the research is valuable. You may have been told that you're expected to produce original research that makes an important contribution to the field. Yes, you are. And the introduction is where you make that case for originality and value of your research. Now here are what I call the typical moves of introductions. First, they establish the value context, and there is a brief literature review connected with that. Second, it describes what is known about the specific area of research in the thesis, and of course a review of literature there as well. The critical part is to state the research problem. And after that, you would demonstrate the importance of solving that problem by returning to the value context. And then it typically ends with the preview of the research that you will use to solve the problem. Now, in part 2 of the workshop, we'll focus on making a case for originality. And in that part of the workshop, we'll focus on the middle sections of the introduction that you see here, focusing on the specific, making a case for the specific research area and also the research problem. And then in part 3 of the workshop, we'll focus on making a case for value of research. And that is, there we will focus on the first and fourth and fifth parts of the introduction. So in the next part of the workshop, we'll focus on making a case for research, the research problem.